The reason I came to Fountainhead is because that I was in a very low state of depression, anxiety and grief. My wife had died and I was on bad diet, living alone, feeling lonely, and I was then staying in bed till midday and stuff like that. I just couldn't be bothered getting out of bed. Part of my depression and grief then escalated somewhat from not being a heavy drinker to becoming obsessed with the grog. The glass or two became a bottle, and before I knew it I was drinking each afternoon and evening. I was using alcohol obviously to try and quench my grief, but instead of quenching my grief it was simply destroying me mentally and it was destroying me physically. I realised that I was out of control when I became uncontrollably rude and aggressive towards my family. I was filled with remorse when I discovered and learned the things that I'd said, that I didn't even know I'd said, but they certainly reminded me next day, and it was then that I decided it's time for me to get help and get good help. The program that I'm doing is called the Palladium program, which covers a great deal of areas, not only for my bad position, but also somewhat pampering, which is part and parcel of the whole course. So it's been rather interesting for a guy that arrived here about 2 weeks ago, a slobbering, mumbling, shaking person who couldn't even write a sentence, who couldn't talk to anybody without starting to cry as soon as my wife's name was mentioned through grief, who was hanging out for a drink the moment he got here. And I was frightened and I was scared, but before I knew, people were around me right here where I am now, and they were talking to me, they were helping me, they were understanding my grief, they were understanding my anxiety. And suddenly that night I went to bed, and whilst I was still very concerned about the decision I'd made, I felt some security creeping into my inner self. The steps here are quite interesting. You know, we go from expect to accept initially, but then we start to move into lenses, which are really marvellous things once you get your head around them, and it doesn't take long. We have circles to show us where we're at, where we can go, and if we keep going the way we are, that's where we're going to end up. That's on the dark side. Or you can go the other steps and end up on the more positive and self-worth side. As I've gone through these first 14 days, or a third of the course, as I sort of tell myself, I was incapable of even walking downstairs or steps before I came here. Today, already, I've got muscles building. I've got an attitude change. I've got a personality development that's happening so well. And I am pleased with myself. For the first time in years, I'm happy with myself. And yet, this is only 2 weeks into the program. People have said to me, "Where are you at now, Maurice?" And I say, a third of the way through. And they say, "Oh, not long to go before you get out." And I'm saying, no, if I'm this good a third of the way through, wow, what am I going to be like in 2/3 more time? Yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, today is a gift, and that's why we call it the present. And I think that's exactly where we're at here now, right now.